Personal Tao. Today's topic, SOS, save our relationships. We work with a lot of couples to improve and expand upon a relationship. There are a lot of different issues that can create a relationship go off rails. Imbalance and kindness is often a common theme we'll see. Communication problems is another real common problem. Believe it or not, sleep disorders destroy a lot of relationships. Another common problem, abuse. Abuse will always destroy a relationship. Another problem, relationships are being forced. Our culture teaches people to force a relationship, and in forcing a relationship, over time you destroy it. So there are a lot of different reasons that your relationship can get off rail, okay? You're coming to this video because you want to try to improve your communication, you're trying to improve the kindness, you're trying to improve the interaction between you and your partner. So let's talk about some of these topics and let's work with your relationship. Let's start with kindness first. Kindness is not what we think it is. We think kindness is to be nice. Kindness is about working to essence. And lots of times when we get with a partner, we change over time. And so the way we work with our partners in the first few years could be very different than where they need to go later in the relationship. So kindness means to change over time. And learning how to change with your partner is a hard thing because marriage and deep relationships tend to stay static. The need to stay the way you were originally tends to prevent people from changing. So one of the best places you can actually work towards in improving the kindness of a relationship is understanding the essence of your partner, allowing your partner to grow and to work with that growth. That's a hard thing to do, and we'll circle back around to that one a little bit later. The next common problem is communication. Oftentimes, people have different communication styles. If you have a partner who's a direct communicator and you're an empathetic communicator, empathy and direct don't necessarily work with each other. And so Julie will work with partners to resync their communication lots of times so they can understand each other better with less argument, with less confrontation. So communication style has a big impact on relationship, it turns out. Now, one topic we do not touch is abuse. And at least a quarter of the relationships out there, a lot of them have abuse in them. So if there's abuse in a relationship, we do not work with that because the only solution to abuse is to release abuse. Abuse is when someone's taking away your power. They're not allowing you to grow in yourself. And abuse tends to be hard to release because the other person is using the abused person as their source of power, so they don't let go. So releasing abuse is the only solution we found in abusive relationships. So we don't work with abusive relationships. We advise release, break free, find a path that allows you to be in your power. It's all about power in that sense. Now, what we discovered is relationships change over time. And the way we're wired is every 7 years, we're wired to become a new person. It's hard-coded into us every 7 to 9 years. So a lot of the people who come to us tend to come at very distinct intervals, around 3 years, 7 years, 10 years, 14 years. We get people at the same increments all the time because we're wired to change at certain points. And that change then introduces problems into the relationship. And the way to work with that is to work with the change rather than deny the change. The trouble is the person who starts the change is ahead of the curve. And the person who is behind the change, in other words, one person tends to want to change, another person tends to resist the change. The more you resist the change, the more you break apart your relationship. And so a lot of the work we do is to teach how to have patience, to actually teach. So it actually ends up becoming a teaching process to teach both people in the relationship to grow, to improve upon themselves, to see the new changes, to discover acceptance of the change, and discover a way to like the new people that you're both becoming. And that's a hard process because a lot of people get scared of change. Relationships often have power imbalances. And often one person in a relationship has less power than another person. Say one person is making all the money while the other person is taking care of the child. That person taking care of the child has less power because they can't just go off on their own. And so that makes an imbalance in power, which makes it harder to fix a relationship until you fix the power imbalance. So a lot of the work we do in relationships is actually all about balancing out the power between both individuals in the relationship And then everything smooths out after you balance out the power. It turns out in relationship problems, lots of times we're not working from our heart, but we might be working from an instinctual level or a survival level. If we don't have a lot of power, we tend to act out survival. We need to survive more than be free. And so pay attention if your instincts are kicking in. Pay attention if you're in survival mode, because if you're in survival mode destroys relationships. Because then you're not in a mode to help each other grow into better stories. You're actually pulling everything down just to survive. And just to survive is not a relationship, it turns out. So in bad times or in times of great change and one person is beginning to change, another person goes into survival mode, that creates a lot of relationship problems, it turns out. So we work with that too. One of the best things you can do is have patience. Now, having patience is not the same thing as doing nothing. The big mistake I see everyone do, they pause and do nothing. Pausing doesn't mean to do nothing. See, when you do nothing, nothing changes, and then the natural moving apart tears the relationship apart. So the longer you wait to fix a relationship, the more likely things will go bad for you. But the thing is, you don't necessarily wait to do nothing. Sometimes you are patient and work on yourself as your partner is changing. So the way you approach this is unique in every case we've discovered. So don't be afraid to get help to help you balance out the timing of your process. Most people will actually do nothing at first when the relationship problem starts. They think, oh, it's just me. Oh, if I just wait a little bit, the problem will go away. The more you wait, the more the problem gets reinforced. The longer you wait, the worse it gets and the harder it is to fix the problem. You know, lots of times we'll get couples who come to us 2 years after the problem started, and after 2 years, too much damage has been done. When you've been hurting each other for 2 years, that's a lot of damage being done. So the sooner you prevent the damage, the better off you are, it turns out. So don't wait for the problem just to go away, because you're just reinforcing the problem by waiting. So pause doesn't mean to wait for the problem away. Pause means take a chance, take a moment, and evaluate your situation. Take a look at what's going on. And then, based on what is going off rails, for instance, if the communication is off rails, get a counselor to help you communicate more clearly with each other. If the change is off rails, in other words, your partner is changing too fast, then work on your change so you get stronger so you can change along with your partner. If the problem is abuse, then let go, find your power, and begin to release the relationship. So different types of problems require different solutions. Now, our culture teaches us to force solutions, to force a relationship. Just because you've been together for 7 years doesn't mean you have to do everything the same way because it was done for 7 years that way. No, that's the worst answer. Change is change. Change isn't trying to stay the same. So lots of times when you reject change, you will destroy your relationship. So learning how to work with change is part of saving a relationship, it turns out. That means having a relationship with yourself. Because if you're resisting your own change, how can you have a relationship with another person? So now here's an interesting trap. If you're the one who's changing, you can't necessarily bring your partner into change either. If they're behind your process, you have to be patient. You have to slowly let them have clues that you're changing and to begin introducing steps that allows your partner to change. So be aware, sometimes you have to be smart in how you approach it. That you don't try to approach it all up front and say, hey, I've changed, so you need to change. That's not going to work. You're going to scare your partner away and they're going to resist the change. So you have to understand, depending on the situation, who's in change, what the problem is breaking the relationship apart, you have to approach it very differently. There are hundreds of reasons why relationships fail. So don't assume, just because you read this really good article on the website, oh, this is what's wrong with my relationship. I see that all the time. People will be desperate. They call us and they say, well, we went through all these other sites and everything they said didn't work, but your site seems so on the money, it has to be the right answer. Not necessarily. In other words, be patient to understand what is really separating your relationship and then work with those true reasons, not over what's common. Lots of times we look at other people's problems, and those aren't our problems. Lots of times we talk to another person, and the solutions they give us will be wrong because they're judging us based on what they would do. And what they would do isn't necessarily right for you or your partner. So when you talk to someone, be sure you find a person who's without judgment, a person who will accept you for who you are, will accept your partner for who they are, and can help you balance out your relationship to be unique and for what it contains in that balance. Judgment will destroy a relationship, especially outside judgment. So a lot of relationships are destroyed by parents stepping in and saying, oh, you kids should be doing this, or by friends stepping in and saying, hey, your partner shouldn't be doing that, and then all of a sudden that breaks apart the relationship. Understand, you have to balance your relationship out without judgment. Judgment will fix a relationship without changing, and that lack of change will then destroy your relationship. So be proactive early. Doesn't mean to push your partner into counseling right away. It means understand why the relationship is separating. And if you can't understand why the separation is occurring, then you get help to analyze it, to see what's in play, so you can understand the inputs in play, the momentum in play, the challenges. Lots of times relationships break up because of past traumas. And so then you need to fix the past trauma before you fix the relationship. Sometimes the relationship is breaking up for a different reason, but you blame a past trauma, and that will break up your relationship for blaming the wrong thing. So you have to be careful. You have to analyze and be open-minded. But because you're in judgment, and oftentimes you're in survival mode, trying to force your relationship to work, you're not necessarily the one to determine what's off the rails. So getting outside help is a major part of saving your relationship lots of times, but non-judgmental outside help. So now, one of the things that we do that really works really well is to buy time. 7 out of 10 times, the first thing we do is we slow everything down, buy some time. Because everything's so emotionally charged, the emotions are breaking everything apart. The emotions are not in sync with each other. And the emotions are causing you and your partner to go back and forth in a fight. Because you'll say something, and then they will counter it in an emotional way. And then you'll lock in with your emotions saying, no, it has to be this way. But then they lock in and no, it has to be this way. And then all of a sudden you're fighting emotions. And the only thing that does is break up your relationship. So one of the truths is emotions take 3 months to process. And one of the things that Julie and I do is we buy time. We slowly teach you new ways of seeing things. We spread out the process so you have those 3 months to lighten the emotions so you can remove the fights. And that's a powerful process, to slowly remove those emotions. Now, saving a relationship doesn't happen overnight. Our culture teaches fast. We want pill solutions. We want, go to the expert and they fix it up in a month or two. No, not going to happen. The minimum, the fastest you'll see a relationship fix is 1 to 3 months if everything's already in sync to be fixed. If things are not in sync to be fixed, it's going to take longer. And depending on how far things are out of sync, the longer it will take to resync everything. So if you're going through a midlife transformation, typically that's a 2-year process. If you're dealing with a conflict because you got in a bad fight, that could be a 3 to 6 month process to alleviate the emotional turmoil that you're in. If it's something, a breaking of a trust, rebuilding trust takes 2 years to rebuild a trust. The key word is time here. But in a fast culture, time, people are doing this. They're trying to force it fast because they're in survival mode. They're in instinct mode. Remember earlier, I said survival mode is not a good thing. And then that survival mode will cause you to do the very things that will break apart your relationship. Survival mode will try to fix your relationship fast. And that's usually the worst thing you can do. So taking the time to be patient, to put kindness back into it, awareness back into it. Acceptance is actually respect. They did a study, and with an 80% to 90% accuracy, they could tell who was going to break up by a couple up front, and it all came down to kindness. If when they were talking to this couple up front, they weren't able to be kind and respectful to each other, it's almost guaranteed that relationship was going to break apart. So one of the things that Julie and I do is we teach kindness and respect and how to have respect. When you have respect, you see your partner as unique. And when you see your partner as unique, you don't look for another partner. You see them special as their own way. You see them beautiful in their own light. So in kindness and acceptance, we can see our partner as being unique. And so that's part of the process. So there are a lot of reasons why your relationship could be off rails. I'm not going to guess why you're here in this video today. What I'm trying to show you is, first, pause. Take a second to see if you're in survival mode. If you're in survival mode, breathe and take a second to find out how to get out of survival mode. What do you need to do to not be in survival mode? Because if you're just reacting, you will push your partner away, or your partner will push you away in their reactions. Second step, be proactive, but be aware when you're proactive. If your partner needs space, then be proactive with yourself. Begin to improve your power as your partner is coming into power. Just don't wait for them to come back and be the same person. If your partner is changing in a midlife transformation or a midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis, they're changing. And you need to change, because if you don't change, they're not going to be the same person and they won't come back because you won't be matching to them anymore. So learning how to change is an important part of this relationship process. Learning how to improve your communication is critical. And improving communication is a change, because we tend to communicate the way we were taught to communicate by our parents. Are you in your parents' relationship? Are you fighting like your parents? Well, change your pattern. And that's what we do. We teach you how to change and then grow into a new relationship. See, the trick is not to try to save the old relationship. The trick is, help me grow into a new relationship. Let us help you grow. So don't save the old relationship, grow into a new one. And that's the way we approach this. Grow into new relationships. It's very effective, very simple, and very powerful. And you gain, no matter how you grow, it's a win-win situation, because you're improving who you are. So you can't help but improve your own relationship to yourself in the process of improving your relationship with your partner. Except at times your partner needs to be apart. Except at times your partner will need space. There's nothing wrong with that. If your partnership is a 100% relationship, it's guaranteed to burn out. The best relationship is 80% relationship, where you're giving 80%, but you still have some space to be private for yourself, and they have space to be private for yourself. Oftentimes when people try to fix relationships, they try to open everything up 100%. That's just going to shatter everything. Too much, too fast. Remember, not a pill, not fast. We want this to be opened up in a patient way. We want this to be a teaching process where you slowly grow, where we use awareness to find out what is off sync and slowly resync things. So be patient with this process and grow into a new person. Allow your partner to grow into a new person and discover a whole new relationship. We have tons of material. We have a whole relationship section. We have a whole midlife section. We have a whole meditation section. We have tons of teaching on healing and awareness on the site. Go to personaltao.com. It's there, it's free, it will help you find answers. If you need more, we're here to help you directly. It's a powerful process. Learn to change, accept change, be proactive in your life, and save your relationship by creating a new relationship. Namaste. And subscribe to our videos. We need the help. Subscribing to the videos helps us tremendously. Thank you for your time. I wish you the best, and may your relationship grow.